So while the Philadelphia Eagles have a lot more important things to do right now, Brendan and I are going to take a look at some things that they're going to be doing in a couple months because, there is an NFL draft coming up after the Super Bowl. I know it's a long time after the Super Bowl, but we are going to talk about the Senior Bowl. Yes, it took me a long time to get to the practices because, like I said, there's more important things going on right now. But I did get to watch some of the stuff over the last couple of days. Brendan, I know you're a big draft guru, so we're going to get into it right now. We're going to talk about Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, and the rest of the Cats there in Mobile, Alabama last week.
I love the draft, guys. So let me kind of flip this back. Let me explain to you why I love the draft so much. So after I had the opportunity, to get my degree from Temple University in sport management, had the opportunity to be an assistant NFL development coach at IMG Academy under a guy named Chris Winkie who won the Heisman Trophy at Florida State. So during that time there, I got the opportunity to train about 70 guys as they prepared for the NFL draft or guys that had, were currently in the NFL, were coming back for private workouts. So that's really where I fell in love with that. Got the opportunity to meet guys like Steve Mariucci, whole bunch of guys from NFL Network, Mike Mayock, whole bunch of guys like that. And after that moment, I was like, man, the chess pieces here, the strategy is just unbelievable. It made me appreciate this whole process so much more. So what we're going to talk about here today, guys, is kind of the Senior Bowl. I'm going to kind of frame it for you to make you understand what parts of the Senior Bowl actually matter and what parts are just fluff pieces. And then also we're going to talk a little bit about potentially who could be there at the 32nd pick. Yes, the 32nd pick for the Philadelphia Eagles after they win the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, yeah. After they win the Super Bowl, 32nd pick, key right there. They're not going to be picking 31st. That's cool. Yeah. So, all right, here's what I'll ask right away, and then we'll kind of get into the players. All right, so you talked about the important parts of Senior Bowl week. The practices are more important than the game itself, right?
Big time. And that's because when you look at the game, you have to understand, guys, they're only allowed to play cover 1 or cover 3 or man under. So the coverages they're going to face in the game isn't really normal coverages. Even the blitz situation is super limited. So the game, it's not really super normal of a good example of what it is. So the practices are really important. Where this is a massive advantage is for the team like the Denver Broncos, who got to be the coaching staff. They got the opportunity to somehow coach both Baker and Josh Allen on the same team. So they got to throw all of that verbiage at them, all of the teaser playbooks, what the Broncos want to do to really feel it out. So that practice is crucial for these coaches.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. I didn't watch the game. I honestly don't really care much about the game. From what I hear, the scouts actually leave before the game.
A lot of scouts do. A lot of scouts will leave on Thursday because Friday, don't get me wrong. I don't want to make it sound like Friday's completely pointless because there is some value at it. A guy like Kyle Aletta out of Richmond made a ton of money there, but he also had a good week of practice. So when you look at the practices, more coaches and scouts are going to look at that. Then they're really going to worry about the game because, again, the game is so watered down and your players, they're getting such a small window of time that they really have more of those live reps, if you will, during the week of practice. So the game, it's like, okay, yeah, it's all well and good, but you're seeing so much of it during practice that the game, it can only be kind of like an icing on the cake, but you already know what most players are by that point.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about those two quarterbacks that you mentioned before. Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen. A lot of people have these mixed opinions about Josh Allen. It's crazy. And from the Twitter people, you would have thought that Josh Allen had the worst week of practice ever.
Yeah.
But, I'm not going to sit here and say I watched everything because it's impossible to digest 3 days worth of practice in a matter of 2 days, especially with everything that's going on. I'm busy with the Super Bowl. But so they made a big deal about Josh Allen missing the net. And then you actually watched it, and you're like, well, he tried to aim for the top right corner, and he just missed it. So let's get into those two guys. Was Josh Allen really as bad as they said he was?
I think this is one of those things where whoever you are, whatever feelings you thought coming into the Senior Bowl about Josh Allen, all you're going to do is say, hey, this solidifies my view on Josh Allen. And I think that's like a very common thing that most scouts do is they kind of come in with this preconceived notion or this preconceived thought, and they don't really change it. They kind of look for points to say, oh, well, this is why I'm right. Not necessarily this is why I could be wrong. That's a problem we get into. And we all do that in life. That's not just a football thing. That's a life thing, So let's talk about why maybe someone wouldn't like Josh Allen. Josh Allen, the big negative of him, never hit that 60% completion mark.
Yeah.
And that's really what you're aiming for as far as an NFL drafted quarterback. That 60% completion mark for any season, never really hit it. So I totally get that. And the other concern is he's got a big rocket of an arm, but he can't, throw the in-between routes sometimes. His accuracy isn't there. Okay, I hear that. Now, if I'm going to flip it, if I'm going to, be the Josh Allen pro, Matthew Stafford never hit 60% in college. And he had A.J. Green and Noshawn Marino, and he played at Georgia.
Yeah.
Josh Allen's playing at Wyoming with a bunch of guys who probably only had maybe one FBS off or maybe two. So the talent level Josh Allen had really wasn't there. If you're a fan of Josh Allen, go back and watch the Wyoming-Oregon game. And what you're going to see is he probably throws the ball, I think, about 25 times. He had like 7 drops. So if you complete those drops, all of a sudden that completion percentage rises. Now, again, if you're the negative person, you can say, well, they're drops because he's throwing the ball too freaking hard and they're not catchable balls. Okay, I can get behind that. It really depends on what side of the coin you are. Personally, for me, I like Josh Allen. I actually think he has the highest ceiling of all the quarterbacks coming out of this draft. But you have to go somewhere where a coach is going to be understanding of, hey, we're going to have to work on him dialing it down on that big arm. And I'm going to have to do things that kind of help his completion percentage rise. Because the other thing is people are quickly going to say, oh, well, Baker has a higher completion percentage, or, Darnold has a higher completion percentage, or Luke Falk. And that's all true. But look how many bubble screens those guys run in college. It completely inflates the stats there for Josh Allen. So I'm a fan of Josh Allen, but I'm not saying I'm going to argue against someone who says he's inaccurate, because I can't.
Yeah, I feel like the 4 quarterbacks are pretty much even, and maybe we'll get into that on another show. I know you don't have a lot of time right now, but here's how you can compare the Josh Allen situation. We here in Philadelphia, we know about bad receivers and bad weapons. We saw it last year with Carson Wentz and how many drop passes the Eagles had. And you can really, really compare that situation to Wyoming as well. So as great as Josh Allen can be, I mean, I saw him rifle this pass to, I believe it was Gallup, the Colorado State kid. There was another one, the Cedric Wilson. Like, he just throws these 25-yard ropes right on the money. But then he'll miss a simple pass to the flat too, which is like completely frustrating. But the talent, it oozes out of him. You either love Josh Allen or you hate him. There is a lot of people I read on the Twitter, like, how you are a complete fool if you like Baker or if you like Josh Allen over Baker Mayfield. Well, I guess I'm a fool because I like Josh Allen.
I do too. I think the people who don't like Josh Allen are probably the same people who had issues with a guy like Matt Stafford. I think that's the fairest comparison of the two, just obviously much more athletic than Stafford. The idea that he's Paxton Lynch isn't fair, because Paxton Lynch was playing in a completely different offense. Allen's playing in a very pro-style offense. Allen actually has decent lower body mechanics. Paxton Lynch had 0. So that comparison, I think, is just far-fetched. I think all 4 of these quarterbacks are going to end up going in the top 10. And here's the reason I say that. Pat Mahomes went 10 last year, and I would take Josh Allen over Pat Mahomes every single day of the week. So there's no question in my mind that he goes in the top 10, and then we get into Baker. So, Adrian, when you look at Baker, what's some of the things that you really like, and then I'll kind of give you my feedback.
Yeah, I think he's very, very patient in the pocket, very calm in the pocket. That's the one thing I noticed. The way he can kind of slide around kind of reminds you a little bit of Drew Brees a little bit. Yeah. And that's been kind of the comparison with him. So the touch that he has on the ball, you can tell he's cerebral out there. He's got those leadership qualities that you want. I will say that I've been more of a fan of Baker Mayfield watching more tape of him. You go to draftbreakdown.com if you guys want to be your own scout. That's a great website to go to. So I like all 4 of the guys, actually. I think all 4 of them are very even. If there is somebody that I think can actually be a bust, it's Darnold.
That's fair. I would say I like Baker too. I think Baker's my 4th quarterback in that group. Same. I like Baker because he's energetic. So people who make this comparison to Johnny Manziel, honestly, I think it's a lazy comparison.
It is lazy. They're not even close to being alike.
No, I mean, sure, they're dynamic, their ability to move around in the pocket, they're short. That's fine. but Baker has a better arm than Manziel. Manziel was a better athlete, sure, but I like Baker a lot more. The other thing is people who have this, this label of a problem with his personality or character. I don't think so. And the reason I say that is his character reminds me a lot of Phillip Rivers. He is fiery. He is going to get in your face. But you know what? Every one of his teammates will go to bat for him and love him. That's the difference between character and personality. Character is someone like Johnny Manziel, where you don't know what he's doing between 10 and 2 a.m. every evening. Personality is just fiery, passionate, over the top. So if you don't like Rivers, you probably don't like Baker. And I'm cool with that. Like, I'm not going to argue that. I know there are a lot of people who don't. But I like Baker for that passion and personality. I'm all for the guys having a lot of flair, and I love that about Baker. Now, if I'm a negative, Baker did measure in at 6.5, so just barely enough. Hands came in okay size too, so he checked those two boxes. But there's not a lot of guys at his stature who have succeeded in the NFL. So it's hard for me to say, oh, I don't care he's short. Well, I have a track record of saying a lot of guys his height weren't successful in the NFL. So I'm not going to, say, oh, well, he can definitely break that mold. But I'm also not going to say he's going to fail. Yeah, I would say Baker's my fourth quarterback, but I'm going to bet on him being that energetic guy. He's not a guy I would trade up for. Well, let me make that clear. I would not trade up for Baker. I would trade up for the other three. I wouldn't trade up for Baker.
Yeah. Yeah, I have Baker as my fourth guy as well, but like Darnold's the guy that I'm really unsure of at this point. But again, that's another show because we got to get into the rest of these guys. All right, so there were four that really stood out to me. Now, I watched a lot of the O-line, D-line stuff. I love that stuff, the getting deep into the trenches and going one-on-one in Mobile. So Will Hernandez, the guard from UTEP, this guy's like 340 pounds, and he moves like a deer. It's crazy. And he was going up against another guy that really impressed me, Justin Jones. They went at it 2 reps consecutively, and it was awesome to see those two guys go at it. So those two really impressed me. Isaiah Wynn, the guard from Georgia, he was really impressive as well. And then one more from NC State. His name is B.J. Hill. So you think of that defensive line at NC State playing with Bradley Chubb. Oh, my goodness. So those two, the NC State Cats really impressed me. So, let's talk about those four.
When we talk about this one-on-one stuff that you see in these senior bowls, it so heavily favors the defensive line. These drills are so heavily favor the defensive line because as an offensive lineman, it's very rare that you're singled up on a defensive pass rusher, and also the defensive linemen, they don't know unless it's third and mile that it's always a passing down situation. So now as an offensive lineman, you're going into a drill where the defensive lineman knows it's going to be a pass situation, so he's instantly going to come right up field. And you don't have help. That's a massive disadvantage for offensive linemen. Because of that, that's exactly why I think a guy like Will Hernandez solidified the fact that he's going to be probably anywhere from 16 to 32 as a draft pick. And then Wynn from Georgia, he's going to be probably anywhere from 25 to 34. I think we're going to see 3 guards taken in the top 40. Obviously, Quentin Nelson's still going to be the top guard taken. But all 3 of those guys look fantastic. Now, you flip to the defensive side of the ball like you talked about, Adrian. Both of the NC State Wolfpack D linemen came in and balled out. So that's awesome for them. The big loser here was Hurst out of Michigan. I think he had the opportunity to come in and solidify himself as being the number 1 interior pass rush guy. Ended up pulling out of the Senior Bowl. That's a big minus. So I agree with you for those guys. Now, there is one person we haven't talked about, and that's our unsung hero, potentially riser of the board from UTSA. Adrian, I'll let you talk about him.
Oh, Marcus Davenport, the athletic one from UTSA, built like a Roman Empire, basically. So I liked him. There was a lot of good about him. Hopefully, I still have you here because my internet is just
Marcus Davenport. Oh, sorry, Adrian, you glitched there. Restart, buddy.
Yeah. I got my internet is unstable message, so unfortunately that happened. But I am back. So Marcus Davenport, basically built out of stone. This guy is an athletic specimen. So he was the guy that was getting hype all week. The way he was bending the edge a couple times in some of those drills, really impressed by him. And even going back to the guards that you were talking about and how it's built for the defensive lineman. Well, I only saw Hernandez get beat once, and that was by Jones. And that was right after so basically I think what happened was Jones beat him, and then Hernandez was like, no, come back here. And then he beat him in the next drill, or in the next set. The other guy that I was impressed with, there were two receivers, but we can stick with the O-line, D-line conversation. Deshaun Hamilton from Penn State, and then James Washington was every deep crossing route, every over route, he was just 5-yard separation.
Yeah.
He was very, very impressive as well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. You know, when I looked at Davenport, there were rumors here coming in that he was going to be a top 10 pick. I didn't see it. I thought he looked good, but I didn't see it. Now, it's also important to remember this guy came to UTSA as a basketball player. Then, it was a tight end and a receiver. So his D-end experience is ultra limited. So if you're betting on upside, I mean, you could see this 6'7", 255. But I've seen a ton of guys on the defensive end who have been similar situations who have just been busts in the league. So I see his bust high.
I'm sorry for cutting you off there, but who was the guy that went to Ohio State, then he went to D2? That's who we remind
Noah Spence.
Noah Spence.
Yep. He ended up getting kicked out of Ohio State and then ended up going to, I want to say, oh my gosh, I can't think of it. Oh, anyway.
It was like Eastern Kentucky maybe?
I think that's right, actually, yeah. So, yeah, I could see that. Noah Spence is obviously a little bit shorter. He's not that 6'7" that Davenport is. But I could see Davenport being a huge boomer bust guy, in the draft.
I like the D tackles from NC State better.
I like them too. I would agree with that. The other offensive lineman I think that deserves a ton of credit is Alex Kappa, Division II left tackle out of Humboldt State in California.
Look at you.
Awesome week, just an awesome week. And we talked about this, months ago, Adrian, that this is not a very good tackle class. So the fact that he is solidifying himself, we could see him being one of the highest Division II level players drafted ever. Now, I don't think he's going to go in the top 40, but I do think he can realistically climb into that second round range because there's not a great left tackle situation.
Yeah, the other defensive guy that I was thinking of, I couldn't think about him, but now I got him. Harrison Phillips, the guy from Stanford. Yeah, but the thing was with him, it seemed like he was using the same move over and over. I need to see some variety. See, that's what was so impressive with Hill and Jones. They were using different moves, whether it was the bull rush, whether it was a swim move. I saw B.J. Hill do this spin move, and it was he had perfect balance. The way he placed his arm on the back of the guard, using it for leverage. Oh my God, lightning quick spin move. So those two guys, man, they were the two that really stood out to me. I don't know where they're going to get drafted. I've never even heard of these two guys. I'm not going to lie to you.
These were two guys that we could see be the biggest risers because of the Senior Bowl. I think the other one who had a great week we have to talk about was Kyle Laletta having 3 touchdowns in the game. I know we talked about the game not mattering a ton, but if you're an FCS quarterback, every single snap you take matters, okay? Yeah, so for him, he looked awesome, probably going to be anywhere from that 3 to 5 range. I had the opportunity actually to meet him when I was down at IMG recently. Dynamite dude, actually from Pennsylvania too, so I got to give him a lot of rep and a lot of love there. But some of the other guys, Adrian, you talked about James Washington. He was a guy that I kind of circled and I said, okay, you know what? He'll probably be a good number 2 receiver in the NFL. I don't think he'll ever be a number 1. He had great separation all week long. I still don't think there's a elite level receiver in this draft that I can circle and say, hey, this guy is going to be a number 1 for an NFL offense for years. I think there's a lot of guys who are 2, but he did look really good.
Yeah, there weren't really any corners that stood out to me, which is interesting because I always love watching the corners, but there's nobody really that stood out to me.
Well, the important thing we have to remember here too, guys, is, this is only seniors. So all the underclassmen who declared, aren't going to be here. So, the top 2 corners, from Iowa and Ohio State respectively, they're underclassmen. So they weren't able to participate in that. That's also why you look at things like Josh Rosen and Darnold and Lamar Jackson. Those quarterbacks, they kind of have a week behind now because you had Baker and Josh Allen get that week early work with the Senior Bowl. These guys, it's not the end of the world for them, don't get me wrong, but Josh Allen and Baker did take a big step forward.
Yeah. The only other name I've written down here, Mike Gesicki from Penn State. What a crisp route runner he is. So they had these drills. The tight ends and running backs going up against the linebackers, and he was the one that was beating everybody.
Oh yeah, he is going to be one of those guys who he's going to go to the combine. I'll say he'll probably run 4.66 in that range. He'll probably vert over 40, and he'll rep it out in the bench, and people are going to turn their heads and be like, "Dude, this guy's a freak." And then because of that, he could be the number 1 tight end drafted. I don't think there's a clear tight end who's ahead. I think he's going to be one of those guys who's going to crush it in the combine. Now, if you're a pessimist and if you're someone who
block,
well, he can't. Okay, he can't block his own shadow. That's Jimmy Graham still hasn't made a block in his entire NFL career, and he's getting paid millions of dollars. So, it just depends. Do you want an inline blocker like Jason Witten? If so, this guy's never going to be your fit. If you want a guy who's a move flex, this guy could be a great fit for you.
Now, in those drills, there was another guy that stood out to me. I just don't know who his name is. There was an NC State running back that was beating a lot of guys too. Very quick out of his break. I just don't know who it is. So maybe he's just a good pass catcher. So you like Akeem Wadley? He's the one from Iowa.
Yeah. It's really funny when I look at all these running backs. It just kind of is like an LOL moment for me at Rutgers because he was committed to Rutgers at one point, and so was Wisconsin's number 1 running back. And both of those guys decommitted from Rutgers and went to have much better careers. But yeah, Akeem Wadley, I love him. I think he's going to be a guy who you are going to have to draft probably 3rd round and below. And that's because I think he weighed in at under 190 pounds, which is a big red flag, for a running back in the NFL. That said, his route running ability was crisp. It looked awesome. Yeah. He's going to be one of those guys. Whoops, excuse me about that. He's going to be one of those guys who, is probably going to get into that Darren Sproles mold or, even a poor man's Christian McCaffrey with his ability to come out of the backfield. But he can make a nice long career as a 3rd down back.
Is that the signal that you have to take your call?
That's unfortunately the signal, folks, that I have to get back.
All right, so what are your final thoughts on the Senior Bowl? Just real quick, like 30 seconds.
Senior Bowl final thoughts. Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield did everything I thought they were going to. I don't think either of them really took massive steps to separate from each other, but both of them did really well. I really like James Washington. I think he was a guy who really did really well. Kyle Letta is a quarterback from Richmond, which is great. The problem we're going to get into now is we're going to get to the point where eventually when me and Adrian do a quarterback show, I'm going to be able to rattle off 10 quarterbacks that should get drafted, and JT Barrett's not going to be one of them. So, we're going to see that that's going to be an issue for him. Offensive line looks really good, especially those top 3 guards inside. Billy Price, another guy out of Ohio State, center guard. Really nice situation there. I didn't see anything great at linebacker, and I didn't see anything great at corner. So those are going to be 2 positions. For the Eagles, linebacker, that could be a little bit worrisome there.
Yeah. All right, I'll let you go. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff on the draft, so that we're going to do film studies too, by the way.
Love it.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right, so I know you got to go. So that's Brett Albert. I'm Adrian Fedke. Enjoy the Senior Bowl.
Appreciate it, guys.
It's like 2 weeks late, 3 weeks late, 4 weeks late.
Appreciate it.
See ya.